What's the O?
You should stand on your head.
If you could hear me, say Shabbat Shalom in the chat.
Shabbat
Or if you could hear me, let us know if brie is your favorite big cheese. I think it's working now. So are we? I think tonight is the night for the interpreter.
That was good, like that.
Did you like it? I was in modern dance in high school. I wasn't very good.
Isadora Duncan.
We almost had.
You could just play the drums, then she could dance. I think she likes
Have any of those little
version is
ting, 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 ting.
exactly.
Are you gonna do that?
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat
Shalom.
Thank you for your patience tonight. We are still working out the kinks of our new system. And it is a wonderful system, but it has a lot more things going on than our old one. It should be all ironed out by next Shabbat, which is Erev Rosh Hashanah. So tonight is going to be a little bit different than how we normally do services. Tonight we celebrate not only Shabbat, but we celebrate our confirmation class of the year 2020. Last April when I spoke to the class and I said, I don't know that we'll be able to celebrate together this fall. This spring, would you like to wait until you could all be together? And they said yes. And so I scheduled the service for September because surely the pandemic would be over by September. I was wrong, but our confirmation students will be joining us tonight virtually. They're at home right now with their families, and we're so happy to have them to be able to celebrate with us. You'll also notice that on our readers table tonight, there is an additional candle because our joy is lessened a bit by tonight by the fact that it is September 11th, and we remember that day 19 years ago when our country stopped, and we remember the lives that were taken, and we hold them in our hearts tonight as well. We begin tonight not with a prayer, but with a real statement of belief. Throughout the service, you'll hear sometimes instead of our prayers, the words and teachings of our confirmation students, each one who've written a statement that reflects who they are. And we hope that you enjoy their teachings tonight as much as we do. And so we turn first to our student Ben Dickman, who speaks on the topic of togetherness.
I can't think of many times where when I told someone that I was Jewish, they didn't laugh or make a joke. Eventually, I became numb to these jokes, and they stopped affecting me in the slightest. I would just look at them with a blank face, wondering why they thought that it was okay to make these jokes, or why they thought they knew me well enough to make them at all. They would soon realize that no one was laughing but them, and that I didn't think it was funny, and inevitably stop laughing. The only place where this didn't happen was where I was at temple, surrounded by other Jews. I felt as though I could be open and didn't have to hide anything. No anti-Semitic Jew jokes, only wholesome ones that wouldn't offend anyone, but probably wouldn't make sense to non-Jews. The Jewish community is like no other. I've never felt more welcomed, more at home, and more at peace than when I'm surrounded by other Jews, laughing together, smiling together, praying together, and of course, eating together.
And so now together, we celebrate our ability to come together, either in person as you celebrate in your homes together or through the blessing of technology. And we sing the words of the psalmist. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. How good, how wonderful it is when brothers and sisters dwell together. Page 128.
Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. 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 Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad.
There are a couple of ways to answer every question. If the question is how, then the answer will be by doing blank. Or if the question is why, then the answer is because of blank. But if the question is what, then the answer is infinitely more complicated. This is why every student hates essay questions on a test. They often have the word what in the question, usually requiring a lengthy answer. So as for what it means to be Jewish, well, I don't really know. But what I do know is that from the second I was told I was Jewish, I struggled with the idea of it. Whether it was feeling different or like an outcast, or just not wanting to go to Hebrew school, I had trouble with it. I remember feeling relief in knowing that many other people were like me, but uneasiness in knowing that many more weren't. At Hebrew school, it made me even more nervous thinking about whether or not my beliefs about God were even okay, as what I said through prayers often didn't line up with what I believed. These thoughts and problems about being a Jew were always in the back of my mind and persisted through pretty much all of Hebrew school. So to look for a solution, I did what any right-minded, self-conflicting Jewish teen would do. I joined confirmation. While in confirmation, I learned about many significant and controversial instances in history. We had numerous debates and conversations that changed my perspective considerably on what it means to be Jewish. Specifically, we would discuss topics regarding hate crimes, governments, land, and even what it means to be Jewish here in Sacramento versus somewhere else in the world. I'll be the first to admit that I had several ardent debates with my parents over some of these topics. Guess who won all of them? Now, although we didn't get any sort of trip with each other, get to go on any sort of trip with each other, I do think that joining this class helped me get a better understanding of what it means to be Jewish. I don't think I personally really know what that means yet. All the rabbis rejoice. But I think that this class and all the wonderful mentions in it have at least helped me get a little closer to an answer. Maybe my answer is in Israel or some other part of my life. I don't know. But I do know that as long as I have a curiosity for Judaism and how it's influenced my life, I'll keep searching. As much as I hate to admit it, maybe the answer is in the curiosity of trying to find one. Maybe it's in trying to finish that test or fit in with everyone else. Wherever it is, maybe it's there. Thank you.
We continue with Shalom Aleichem on page 142.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון. מי מלך מלאכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu tov Shabbat.
Shabbat Shalom.
לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון. מי מלך מלאכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. זכם לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון. מי מלך מלאכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא.
We turn to page 146 for the Baruch. Please rise.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Page 148.
Lai 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 lai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidbaro ma'ariv arabim ma'ariv arabim v'chokma potach sharim ובתבונה משנה איתי ומחליף את הזמנים ומסדר את הכוכבים במשמרותיהם ברתי יכיר צונו. וחושך מפני אור ומעביר יום ומתיר לילה, מבדיל בין יום ובין לילה. אדוני צבאות שלום. לה 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 לה. תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני המעריב ברבים. לי 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 מעריב ברבים. אהבת עולם בית ישראל וננציח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגן יומם ולילה. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
I just realized I don't know if I told you all to sit down, so if I didn't say please be seated, please be seated. And we continue with the Ve'ahavta on page 154.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Amen.
We now have the pleasure of hearing from Natalie Michaels and Adam Hirsch.
For a long time, I thought that my lack of connection to traditionally Jewish places marked me as a bad Jew. I went to camp, and while it's potentially blasphemous to say this in a Jewish setting, my experience was impersonal and disconnected. I've gone to nifty events in search of the automatic, unwavering bond my peers have found, and I cannot seem to locate it. Instead, my connection is with the Jews at this temple, the people that have watched me grow up, the people I've grown up with, and the children I've watched as they've grown. I've found that Jewish people mean more to me than Jewish rites and rituals. I feel a stronger connection to the kids I watch in childcare during Shabbat than to the services themselves. I feel a stronger connection to the people in Torah study than to the words we're studying. And at my bat mitzvah, I felt a stronger connection to the idea that the words I was saying had been said by many people before me than to the idea that the words were those of God. I can't give myself over to the idea of God because I'm cynical in the way that many young people are. I can't give myself over to the idea of prayer because I haven't found the right words and I'm weary of those provided to me. And I can't give myself over to the idea of Jewish summer camps because they feel too isolated and too forced. But I can give myself over to Jewish people. I'm not even sure that I would have found my way to Judaism if I hadn't been born Jewish, or that I would feel so connected to these people if I had grown up outside our community. But I would like to believe that there's a shared understanding and a yearning that all Jews feel, something that will persist despite all attempts to stifle it. We're a community built on discourse, on communication, and we've survived only because we seek each other out, either out of necessity or irrepressible wanting. I'm filming this speech on this bench, where I sit sometimes waiting for services to begin or after they've ended, watching people as they arrive and leave and mill about the synagogue. Despite the slightly stalkerish nature of this practice, it means more to me than almost anything else. It's here that I get to step back and look at my people, our people, as they enter and exit and exist in a space where they are part of a distinct community. And because this spot overlooks the entrance to our communal space, I get to watch as people transform from their outside selves to their Jewish selves, as they trade in one way of being for another. In some ways, it's not that different from being part of a book club or a motorcycle gang, but it has a unique significance for me. A side note, there are Jewish motorcycle gangs, and I wanted to share a few of their names with you now, simply because they're amazing. I've also printed out their logos because it's part of the effect. So we have the Lost Tribe, the Shalom and Chromes, the Kai Riders, and Hillel's Angels. So anyways, I digress. I guess the point of this is that I like our congregation. I like the dank, deathly smell of the area behind the stage in the social hall. I like the man that comes to Shabbat services with green glitter eyebrows. I like my bar mitzvah class, a group of people I've been with as we've turned into adult-ish humans. I didn't choose to come to confirmation because I expected to discover the meaning of my Jewish identity. I don't know now, and I'm content with the fact that I'll never really understand it. It's amorphous and strange and tends to transform drastically without warning. While confirmation may have shaped my Jewish identity in a specific moment in time, it did nothing to solidify or answer it. Rather, I chose to be confirmed because I couldn't imagine not doing so. Confirmation was another excuse to be a part of my community, and as long as I can, I'll continue to seek out those excuses. Thank you.
The first time someone told me I would have to make a statement as to what being Jewish meant to me, I really didn't know what to say. And I pondered my complete loss of words for quite a few hours. But in the end, it was rather simple. Being Jewish doesn't simply have value in my life, as it is a part of my life. Judaism to me is more than a concept. It's a sense of community, morals, life lessons, even ways of life. In this, I value the thought of being Jewish as just part of me. The fact that I am Jewish is oftentimes comforting when I feel the need to search for guidance. And this is what I value. All of these simple notions are what have driven me to choose to be confirmed. Having spent several years learning about Judaism, the idea that there was more to learn other than what I had already been taught was exciting. It allowed me to further connect with the ideals and community, and better enabled me to grow as a result. Naturally, when I heard that the trip to Israel had been canceled, disappointment was the first thought in my mind. It felt as though I had gotten shortened out, and I had definitely gotten the short end of the stick here. And the very short end it was, I think, as the delays in normalcy continue. Regardless, I will continue to wait, and when the next opportunity arrives, I will take it, whether it be another chance to learn, connect with the community, and with any luck in the distant future, take my trip to Israel.
And just as our students anticipate their pilgrimage to Israel, so did our ancestors, as they stood on the far side of the shores, Egypt behind them, and the promised land before them. Please join us on page 158 with the Mi Chamocha.
Mi chamocha Elohim Adonai Mi kamocha Nedar v'kodesh Nora tehilot Osef Eleh Nora tehilot Osef Eleh Won't you help me sing songs of freedom. It's all I ever can. Redemption song. Malekutecha, Ra'uvanecha, Bokeh ayam mifnei Moshe u'Miriam. Zeini anu ve'ameru, Adonai lo le'olam va'ed. Won't you help me sing these songs of freedom? It's all I ever can. Redemption song. Redemption song. Redemption song.
And now we get to hear from Heidi Greenstein about her Jewish quarantine.
These past couple months have definitely been hard for all of us. From a global pandemic to virtual school, my life and the lives of others have been completely upended. Quarantine for me has definitely had a lot of ups and downs, and one major loss was not being able to go on my Israel trip with the confirmation class. I had been looking forward to this trip for so long, and it was a big motivation for me through school to do well. When the trip was postponed, I obviously was really upset, but it also made me realize how much I valued my ability to express my faith in many ways. I went to Jewish sleepaway camp, helped as a madricha on Sundays, and celebrated holidays with my friends and family. Suddenly losing this privilege of having busy events, confirmation class, and Sunday school in person gave me a whole new outlook on how much we took for granted. Even though we started to hold these things via Zoom, I think we can all agree it just isn't the same. Rabbi wasn't hitting her Jeopardy buzzer to get us all to stop talking. We weren't sitting in the conference room learning how to say things in Yiddish, and I missed it. However, being able to go on a Zoom call every week and see my friends, or having game nights with our senior youth group, gave me something to look forward to while stuck at home. The small feeling of community still present showed me how much I appreciated my Jewish community and everything it's given to me. As quarantine dragged on, I continued to draw strength, comfort, and friendship from my Jew crew. I had more virtual movie nights with camp friends and counselors, social distancing picnics, and even a backyard campout. While none of these things take the place of the six weeks in Israel, they lifted my spirits, kept me connected, and kept me sane. Though I'm not sure what next summer will bring, I can only hope that as we say at our Passover Seders next year in Jerusalem.
We continue with the Hashkivenu on page 160.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom. V'ha'amidenu malkeinu l'chayim. Ufros aleinu sukkot shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukkot shlomecha.
Shelter us beneath thy wings,
O Adonai, guard us from
all harmful things.
O Adonai, keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light.
Teach us daily wrong from right.
Amen. 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 Amen.
eavesdrop on a conversation between Dylan Harkness and Ethan Huggins, who are just having a little conversation between friends.
So, Dylan, tell me, what has Judaism brought to you?
Good question. It's more than a religion. It's kind of a way of thinking. It's kind of like a memory. You put stuff in and you take it out when you need to take a test, or for life experiences. Judaism has almost an answer for everything. It's actually kind of weird how much they have answers for.
But how does that apply today? Like, for me, maybe it's how our nation is run, or how we treat others.
That's pretty obvious.
I mean, fair, but that's still relevant.
What about Shabbat? I mean, every Jew does it. What do you think about it?
Well, I mean, the line is good, but the whole do-nothing part, it's annoying, but it's also self-humbling. It shows that we have all these things that we just take for granted. In other words, what have you gotten out of confirmation? Only arguing with others?
That's really funny, man. But on a more serious note, confirmation has given us a platform where we can spout the beliefs and practices we've been doing for years.
I mean, I suppose it would be hard to have a philosophical debate with a 10-year-old. I mean, one thing I got out of confirmation is that Judaism isn't just a religion, it's a people. And each people have their own stories and their own practices. Well, there was a lot in the confirmation class, like the class of spooky Jewish stories, or, my favorite, the class of Yiddish curse words.
Well, that's a much better way of putting it. I mean, other than philosophical debates, we had a lot more fun. Again, just like...
So, what do you think of confirmation Zoom?
The confirmation ending on Zoom wasn't that bad. It kind of ended a bit open-ended, but, you know, that's really not that bad.
I loved confirmation class this year, no matter how anticlimactic this ended.
I just loved that. We continue now with the Vishamru on page 162.
Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam beini u'bein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et haaretz u'bayom hashvi'i Shabbat, Shabbat, vayinafash Shabbat, Shabbat, vayinafash. Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam. Berit olam beini u'bein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam oti le'olam.
Centuries ago, before we had a printing press, before we had a printed Siddur, what would happen is that the chazan, or in our case, a chazanit, the cantor, would lead the congregation in prayer. The order of the prayers were the same as we have today, and the first line and the last line are the same as we have today. But what would happen in the middle is the cantor would be moved by whatever the theme of the prayer was, and then they would kind of just riff on that theme as they would sing and they would pray. But the congregation knew what the last line was, and so they knew when the prayer was complete. When the printing press came about, we lost that opportunity to improvise, to offer new words along the same themes. In the Amidah, we pray and we recall our ancestors and the relationship that our ancestors had with God and with our faith. We acknowledge that God is powerful and knowable and different than and distinct than us. And so today we're going to let the words of our students speak for the prayers themselves. And so Cantor and Michael will lead us in the opening part of the Amidah as we pray that we should be able to pray. And then Cantor will sing parts of the prayers interspersed by some of the teachings of our students. The first one being Evan Gringenstein. I just want you to pay attention to the spelling of his name when it comes up. And he'll be talking to us about why it's not so easy being green. And then we'll hear from Kieran Schwartz, and they'll be talking about what it means to be a seriously Jewish atheist. And then for silent prayer today, we're reminded that a picture is worth 1,000 words, as Sophia Oberst takes us through memories of growing up at B'nai Israel, going to Jewish summer camp, and being part of a Jewish community. So we rise for the Amidah, beginning on page
164.
164.
Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi agidei latecha. Adonai, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, ve'ezrat Sarah.
In confirmation class, we covered many topics throughout the year, but there was one that really stuck with me: family. We talked a lot about being Jewish and how far back our history dates, and this reminded me of my last name. What may look unusual at first, and what certainly has tricked many people, actually contains a lot of meaning within it. It represents the journey of my family from Eastern Europe to the Caribbean to the United States. My family has been through it all. What makes it even weirder is how it seems everyone in our family has a different spelling of the name. It appears that with every stop, my family added a new letter. But no matter how you slice it, these few simple letters tell a complex story. A story of a family that moved around quite a bit, surviving great catastrophes like the Holocaust, transatlantic boat travel, and eventually migrating from Poland and Europe to South America, the Caribbean, and eventually America, settling in New York, Chicago, and California. I actually recently visited where my family stopped in Curacao, where they lived and where some members still live. I saw where my grandfather grew up, as well as where he went to school and temple. All of this taught me a little more of my family history. Everyone there also said how much I looked like the rest of my family, further cementing the fact that I had come to a special place. I got to see relatives I hadn't seen in a long while. And all of this shows how important it is to know your family's story. Every family has a story, whether encompassed in the name like mine or embodied in other ways. It shows where the family lived and moved to. Whether in Europe or in Asia or in Africa, all families came from somewhere. It's super important for these stories to be cataloged, as if only a few people know about a family history. When those people die, it's possible that that story will be lost to time. It's possible that that story will be forgotten, and a whole generation of history for a family might as well have never existed. But by asking our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents about what they know, about where they grew up and how they got to where they are, we can preserve their histories and also might learn some intriguing stuff in the process. This also shows how taking a DNA test may be a worthwhile investment in the long run, as by doing so you might get access to information that didn't get passed on for one reason or another, like a certain relative or an event. In fact, recently, on that same trip to Curacao, we got a book that contained our family's story. And parts of the story were noticeably different than the one we had been told, showing how if we didn't research the facts ourselves, we would have missed out on some precious details. Memory itself can fail us sometimes. The point that I'm trying to make is that we should try to preserve our histories whenever and however we can. We must make sure that as much as possible is passed down, but must also make sure that information is correct by using all available sources to ensure we see how every name is important. Each letter placed there for a specific purpose and reason, all contributing to the people that we are today. Without programs like confirmation class, people might not look closely at their names, thinking about what it means to be a Jew and what an amazing journey we have all taken to get here. I am fortunate to have been a part of this class and hope that everyone is able to experience a program like it.
אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל, אתה רב להושיע, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל.
I'm not religious. I don't believe in a higher power. During the prayer and services, I'm not praying to anyone or anything. But I am Jewish. The amount of times I've had to say, sorry, I can't this weekend, I've got a Jew thing, is countless. I've always felt a deep connection to Judaism. I've been attending Camp Newman since I was old enough to go, and I've been going to temple since I was about 3. So that brings up the question, why don't I believe in God? I've always seen the idea of a god or gods as a crutch. Praying when you don't know if anyone is listening seems pointless to me. I don't want to be in a negative situation and hope that praying will get me out of it. I want to problem solve and figure out how to get myself through that negative situation and see the other side. I want to feel proud of my accomplishments and not like someone else was the one who orchestrated everything. I've always felt that God simply can't be real. I've struggled a lot with anxiety, depression, and gender dysphoria for a lot of my life. And I simply can't believe that the big man upstairs is looking out for me if I have a chemical imbalance in my brain. Why would God create me that way? Now this brings up the question, if I don't believe in God, why am I Jewish? Why do I feel such a strong connection with Judaism if I don't believe in the statement of Judaism? This is a question I've struggled a lot with, and I've come to the realization that the reason I have such positive feelings towards Judaism is because how much any Jewish activity I do relieves my anxiety and depression. From camp to Nifty to confirmation to Friday night services, I always walk away from my experience feeling happy and relieved. To me, Judaism is so much more than sitting in a room, praying to God. Being Jewish is walking into a room full of people you know or don't know and feeling a weight being lifted off your shoulders. Knowing that every single person in that room is there to support you if you need it. That every person in that room came there to be part of a community of people who lift up each other and lift themselves up in the process. Thank you.
הקדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
course, flies anyway, because bees don't care what humans think is impossible. Shalom, busy.
He was a weasel, and every day he would fight with the weasel. And then one day, the weasel said, "There's no way both of us can rule this land. For I'm the evil man."
Ratzon imrefi v'hegyon libi Yule ratzon imrefi v'hegyon libi lefanecha Adonai Tzuri Adonai Tzuri v'goali Adonai Tzuri Adonai Tzuri v'goali Go inside your heart, just be. Go inside your heart and see what it wants, what it needs, what it yearns when you breathe. Go inside your heart and see. May the words of my mouth and meditations of my heart be kind, be true. May they be acceptable to you. Oh, my rock and my redeemer. Yule ratzon imrefi v'hegyon libi. Yule ratzon imrefi v'hegyon libi lefanecha.
In the Misha Berach, we talk about praying for the healing of spirit and the healing of our bodies. During this pandemic, we have been very cautious about making sure we do not injure our bodies, that we do not become sick, that we do not spread illness. But the harder part, in some ways, to bear has been the sense of isolation and sadness that has swept over all of us at different times as we yearn for normal. As you hear from so many of the students, we need each other. We need a community. For me, the hardest part is when I come to the temple and it's quiet. And as I looked at the pictures and the videos of the students standing in different places around our campus, it made me realize this is the hardest part, each of us being alone. And I pray as you hear the prayers that Cantor and Michael lead, as you spend this time with us on Friday night, perhaps for a little bit of time, you feel solace, you feel comfort, and you feel healing. We open our hearts and our prayers now to all those who are in need of healing of body or healing of spirit. You could feel free to write the names of those for whom you're praying for or what you're praying for in the chat. And we will read the names ourselves of the ones that are in our healing list. as we join our prayers. Pray for a refuah shlema, a complete healing in body and spirit for all who are in need.
refuah shlema. For all those in need, refuah shlema. May the one who blessed our fathers, may the one who blessed our mothers, hear our prayer, hear our prayer. For all those in need, refuah shlema.
And now we will hear from Zachary Beck talking about how he rediscovered his Judaism, Nathaniel Tochterman talking about our community, and Noah Zerbo talking about how Tikkun Olam starts with community.
I've been coming to the synagogue my entire life, but after my bar mitzvah, I didn't stick around to see what else Judaism had in store for me. Some because I didn't like being Jewish. I still didn't camp along every year, but it felt as if my enthusiasm towards Judaism left me as I boarded the bus back home. A year ago, I didn't remember confirmation existed. I just come back from camp and I was feeling my Judaism. I spent a lot of time that fall delving into Judaism on my own via the internet. When I realized High Holidays were right around the corner, I had to go. I left my house looking for a peaceful day of services and just some time for myself. But luckily, that's not what I got. A classmate of mine, Natalie Michaels, told me about confirmation and how great it was, so of course I joined. I found a place to explore my Jewish identity and rediscovered a community I had forgotten. My biggest takeaways from confirmation are 1, a greater appreciation of Bob Dylan, and 2, an amazing group of friends and community in the form of Busy and the greater B'nai Israel congregation. I feel as if it weren't for my time at camp and the connections I made there, I wouldn't have joined confirmation, and thus I would have lost a large part of my identity, and my friends would be far fewer in numbers. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
While I was still deciding last summer if I wanted to join confirmation or not, I realized that I had become very disconnected from the congregation. I never became a Madrik, and I didn't really go to services anymore. So when my parents asked me to decide if I was going to join the confirmation or not, I was unsure. I'd ask myself some questions. Would I have the time? Would my friends be there? Would I feel comfortable in this new community? But after the first meeting, I was so sure I would continue with confirmation because all my worries had melted away. I knew that I would be comfortable in this environment, and I now remember how happy I was with the people I was seeing every Tuesday. This has recently got me thinking, why did I ever get disconnected from a community that I value so much? I was never so busy that I could not show up once a week to hang out with my community. The more I thought about it, I was never as disconnected as I thought I was. I never really left Judaism. I still regularly celebrated holidays with my family and went to sleepaway camp. And because of this, I never really lost my Jewish community, but I did stop going to services at the temple. Maybe to me, Judaism wasn't about a place, but about the people you see at this place and the community you become a part of. And over the years I was away from my friends and family at temple, I really started to miss those people. And after placing myself back as an active member of the congregation, I learned that these people are what make Judaism so special to me. These people who bring me immense joy, these people that are so kind and welcoming, and these people who are so important to me to who I am as a person. And even though in the future I might get distant from B'nai Israel, I will always remember that these people who form my community will always welcome me and allow me to re-enter the congregation as if I never left. And I know that I will always feel safe in knowing that the congregation B'nai Israel will accept me as who I am and who I always will be. Thank you.
Let me tell you a story about a community. Nothing special, just a community like most others. A community of many faces, a community of many sizes, many shapes, a community of many colors. Being a Black Jew is an unmatched experience, one that is hard to describe in words because there isn't much different than simply the color of my skin. Like a black sheep in a large herd, I'm easily recognizable from the outside, yet all sheep within the cluster are oblivious to its differences, moving as one unit for their common goal and not stopping to think twice about the black sheep in the herd. To reconsider whether or not this is even a sheep, because in the end they're all sheep, and they all came to do the same thing. Have you ever seen a sheep ostracized by its herd? Much less for the color of its wool. This is because nobody came with the idea that only one kind of sheep can graze. The sheep just came to do as they always do, in a jumble of shades and heights. I mean, after all, no matter the sheep, they all know what it feels like to fear slaughter, especially the one that is easiest to spot. Yet the sheep move on together, as a whole, lifting up each other with every new member, every new field to graze in, and collectively shielding each other from the butcher. Within the Jewish community, my experience has been similar to this. While it is hard to ignore an immediate difference in appearance, that isn't something that changes the functionality of us as a community. It thankfully has never been a pressing matter that my skin is darker than most of the community. While I'm not alone, I still have made friends, met families, and found a special place that I will hold dear for the rest of my life. With both racism and anti-Semitism on the rise in our country today, having a community behind me has been one of the most important things in my life. Our community has stood together for ages to fight for what we believe is right, regardless of what other people think. We have shown that together we can make a change. Together we can fix this world, piece by piece. Tikkun olam.
We continue now with the Aleinu, which can be found on the bottom half of page 586. And within the words of the Aleinu, we'll also hear a teaching from Harris Prunier, talking about how he has expanded his community, and Hudson Prunier, talking about the importance of family. Please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
What I like about being Jewish is that I can be part of a friendly community and learn more about the history of Judaism every day. Going to a temple brings the Jewish community together, and I like the activities and events that happen yearly and how everyone has a good time and is friendly with each other. Being Jewish allows me to meet new people and make new friends. I especially like going to camp and meeting new people.
What does being confirmed mean to me? Being confirmed for me is a rite of passage that many people before me have already done. The fact that I get to experience this with my friends, it makes it all the better. As we discussed, debated, and laughed throughout the year, I found what it really means to be confirmed in the Jewish people. Being confirmed brings strangers and friends together, and what is produced is a family. Even though many of us are not related by blood, we are still a family through thick and thin.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
One of the longtime traditions at B'nai Israel around confirmation is for the rabbi to address the confirmation students in what used to be called the rabbi's charge, which I always loved. I felt like I was taking them out into something extraordinary. And I guess in some ways, we are. When you graduate from confirmation, you are truly an adult in our community and in our congregation, as we've heard from all of those beautiful statements tonight. So, here is my charge. When I look at each of you, at each of these students that we have heard from tonight, I am in awe. It's not merely nostalgia that makes me say that things were so much simpler when I was your age. It's the truth. There are things that all of you have to deal with that are so different than when I was growing up. There has been an increase in racism, in anti-Semitism, there's climate change, gun violence and school shootings, and an unhealthy and toxic amount of homework and stress that high school students have to deal with. And now, on top of all of that, a global pandemic, and California is on fire. And yet, throughout it all, I've seen you all build a community that supports each other, that wants to understand each other, and who truly cares for one another. And it's not a closed community. It's a community that throughout the years has welcomed in new students and is affirming and supportive to the changes that each of you have gone through. It's made me so proud and optimistic to spend time with all of you over the last year. I thoroughly enjoyed the controlled chaos of our classroom, and I even looked forward to seeing each of you on Zoom once the pandemic began. It was one of the bright lights of my week. In the Talmud, it is written, I have learned much from my teachers, even more from my colleagues, but I have learned the most from my students. Tonight, each of you shared with us a bit of your Torah, your truth, and you've allowed your family and your friends and the congregational community to see what I have seen all year long, the beautiful light that shines brightly from each of your souls. I look forward to learning from you and with you in the years to come. I pray that no matter where your journey takes you, you always feel at home in this place and with the people that you have created as your community. I'd like to invite everyone now to please rise as we open the Ark so that the cantor and I can offer a blessing on this class. But before we do, I'd like to ask the families of our students to place their hands on their children's heads or place their arms around their shoulders so that through you, they can feel the love that all of us are sending them right now, so that they know this blessing comes not just from the cantor and I, but from their entire community.
יברכך אדוני וישמרך.
May the Holy One bless you and keep you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka.
May the Holy One turn towards each of you with kindness and compassion.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. V'yasem lecha shalom.
May each of you continue to study and to learn, to wrestle with your faith, to be unafraid to ask questions and to push the boundaries. May you take the wisdom that you acquire out into the world to make it more kind, more just, and more whole. And from this experience, from your community, may you find a sense of shalom, a sense of peace. And let us all say, Amen. Please be seated. Please be seated. You know what my favorite part of the Star Wars movies are, Cantor?
Oh, I'm afraid to guess.
When Obi-Wan Kenobi has the ability to say, "These are not the droids you are looking for." Because if I had that type of power, what I would say right now is, the ark was filled with colorful mantles. And I would say, you forgot everything you saw at the ark, so that tomorrow night when we celebrate Slichot, it will come as a beautiful surprise that the high holidays are around the corner.
Like the Shabbat candles. Do one of these.
Oh, it was hard not to notice. So this brings us to announcements. And we have a wonderful virtual Oneg tonight following services hosted by our membership committee, and it'll give us a chance to talk about the fabulous speeches that we heard from our confirmation students tonight. And I believe the confirmation class may have their own Oneg going on tonight, and I'm sure Denise will write something in the chat, or Leslie will write something in the chat to verify whether or not the students will be having their own Oneg. I also want to do a big shout out to the confirmation class parents and all the siblings who were amazing. Up until the pandemic, the families were working so hard to send their kids to Israel, and God willing, next summer they'll be able to go. And I just want to thank all the parents for all the amazing work they do with their kids and the wonderful role models that they are. Tomorrow morning, we will celebrate Shabbat with Torah study at 10 a.m. And our Kavanah Shabbat service with Danny Marshall will be at 10:30 in the morning. And tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, please join us as we prepare for the high holidays with Slichot, as we kick off the high holiday season. The service will be at 8 p.m., so for all of those who were too tired to stay up until 10 p.m. for services in the past, you get to watch it at 8 p.m. You'll join us for Havdalah and then the Slichot service. And then the service will also be posted on our with the YouTube link. So for those of you who want to wait up till 10 or midnight, have a blast. It'll be on there for you to access later. On Sunday morning, I cannot believe it. Sunday morning is the first day of religious school. You definitely don't want to be late. You have no excuse about traffic or not knowing what to wear. Come in your jammies, eat breakfast, have a nice cup of hot cocoa as you join us, but please don't be late. We have some fun stuff going on to kick off Sunday morning, and so we look forward to seeing the kids on Zoom. Also, if you haven't seen it yet, we sent out our first edition of the digital Kalenu. It is amazing and beautiful, And Terry Christie and Abby Blackman worked incredibly hard on it. It has a ton of information about the high holidays. You're going to want to download it. If you download it as a PDF, it's easy to scroll through, and it will give you all the information you need for high holiday services. You could also get the information from our weekly Chadashot, as well as on our website. A reminder that next Friday is Erev Rosh Hashanah, and for those of you who signed up for a high holiday care package, please come and join us at the right time, which I have to look at my Kalenu, but it's in the Kalenu for when it is. And if you need to check out a Machzor, a high holiday prayer book, that is also possible, and please contact our office and we'll let you know how that could be done as well. Michael, it is a joy as always having you with us to celebrate Shabbat, and Cantor, I literally could not do this without you.
Back at you, Rebbe.
And so now we turn our thoughts towards those who are no longer with us. And it is with sadness that I actually announce the passing of one of my uncles who passed away earlier this week. My father's younger brother, Kareem Ezra Alfie, who was a beloved uncle to me, to my brother Elliot Alfie, and my other brother David Alfie, and my sister Serena Philibar, and to literally dozens of other Alfie nieces and nephews. And our condolences to his wife, and it is with sadness that I announce his passing. It is also with sadness that we recall the recent passing of Susan Elihu, the beloved mother of Ramesh Sinai, beloved mother-in-law of Larry Raskin, and beloved grandmother of Elliot Raskin. Zichronam Livracha. May their memories forever be a blessing. We also recall loved ones who have passed away at this time in years past. We remember Morton Belzer, Annie Berman, Janice Birnbaum, Ben Bloom, David Brainin, Dylan Carroll, Pauline Sechik, Shirley Cohen, Rosa Conlin, George Kahn Jr., Miriam Creven, Clara de Cataldo, Freddie Estroff, Eitan Ezrahi, Jim Fink, Regina Goins, Tilly Levinson, Shayna Lieberman, Lena Levis, Eunice Merowitz, Paul Milch, Mary Miller, Hannah Morris Gould, Neil Mueller, Isidore Mulberg, Aaron Nathan, Rose Samaville Neustadt, David Nevins, Helen Sprain Ouellette, Laura Parker, Ben Press, Anita Rockman, Leonard Rude, George Rose, Jeanette Rosenblum, Rose Shermer, Morton Schwartz, Bernard Shemansky, Dorothy Silva, Michael Silverman, Benita Swidler, Sadie Tannenbaum, Jack Tochterman, and Dinah Wallach. If there are names of loved ones that you would like to add to the Kaddish list tonight, please feel free to do so in the chat. And we also hold in our hearts all those who died, who were killed, and who offered their lives for the sake of others on September 11th, 2001. If you are saying Kaddish for someone tonight, I would like to invite you to please rise. And we offer you these words of comfort. Hamakom yenechem etchem betok sha'ar avlei Tzion b'Yushalayim. May God comfort you among the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. We rise as a community for the Mourners Kaddish, which can be found on page 598. Yitgadal v'yitgadash Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'gala ubizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach le'olam umei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitraman v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei tekudsha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Damiran be'alma ve'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mramav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us all say,
Amen.
Amen. So tonight, we hope you join us in our closing song of Osei Shalom, where we pray for God to offer us peace. And keep your eyes tuned, because I think our confirmation students might pop in and give us a little surprise.
Osei Shalom b'mramav. Osei Shalom b'mramav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Oh ya'aseh shalom. Oh ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu. May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom.
shalom.